This is the Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, semi-retired pro wrestler, and today, I'm your host. And let me start by saying this. Jacob Fatu, I think he's becoming a problem. Wait, you know what? I think he is a problem. And not just for the WWE roster, not just for the Bloodline, but for Solo Sikoa too. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if it's your first time here, this podcast is fully interactive. Whether you are watching it live right now or on demand, feel free to jump into the chat because I respond to every single message, whether it's live right now or whether it's on demand. Later on, I always log back in and respond to all the messages, and I look forward to interacting with you. But Jacob Fatu, he's violent, he's unpredictable, he's unstoppable, and the fans, we just love every second of it. But here's the real question. Can anybody in the WWE control him, or is Jacob Fatu already starting to take over? That is what we're talking about today. Let me know in the chat, do you think that Jacob Fatu is the most dangerous man in the WWE? Drop your thoughts in the chat because I want to hear from you. But before we break down why Jacob Fatu is a problem, let's take a step back and talk about how we got here. So, from the moment that Jacob Fatu arrived in the WWE back in, June 2024, Jacob Fatu didn't just fit in. That mofo took over. He attacked Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. He laid out Kevin Owens with a Samoan drop onto the steel steps. He delivered a spear onto Randy Orton into the barricades, and he finished with a diving headbutt that sent Cody Rhodes, the WWE Universal Undisputed Champion, crashing through a table. Look, if you ask me, that's a dangerous man already to begin with. That's talking about making an impact already. Look at that crazy man right there on his debut in the WWE. And if you look in that far right corner, you see Paul Heyman there with his hand over his mouth. Paul Heyman knows exactly who the hell Jacob Fatu is. And the reason why he knows who Jacob Fatu is because, he's been the wise man for the Bloodline, way back in the WCW days. He's been with the Samoan family for such a long time. He knows what kind of danger Jacob Fatu can be. But if you ask me, I think that Jacob Fatu is already starting to outshadow Solo Sikoa. Let me tell you why. Solo Sikoa, he came into the WWE. Well, he was already in the WWE. He was in NXT, and he was doing his little thing, and he was making a name for himself. He was pretty dangerous, right? And then he came onto the main roster to support the Bloodline. He became the silent enforcer for the Bloodline, for Roman Reigns and his brother, Jay and Jimmy Uso. But the thing, though, is that they took Solo Sikoa from a small fish tank to where he was the biggest and most dangerous fish, and put him in a bigger fish tank to where the fish were more dangerous than him. And I feel that Jacob Fatu's character of him being a little bit too quiet, I think that played against him a lot. More than you probably even recognize right now. Jacob Fatu, like I said, he came in loud, he came in violent, and he came in unpredictable. When you see Jacob Fatu, you shut up and you keep your eyes open because you don't know what's happening, because if you're standing there, you don't know if you're next. You don't know if you're next. Fans, though, immediately gravitated towards him, and now Jacob Fatu is getting one of the most biggest reactions in the WWE. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I need you to go ahead and watch some WWE programming and just listen to what's happening for Jacob Fatu. You're not supposed to be cheering Jacob Fatu, but the fans somehow like him. And let me tell you why. Jacob Fatu, he's not just another big guy. He's explosive, he's agile, and he has that crazy energy. And not only does he have the crazy energy, he also has the crazy eyes. And when you look at somebody like him, he feels so fresh. He's dangerous, but you know what? It's also exciting. Jacob Fatu, he's got some street cred though from the indies. And Major League Wrestling was where he pretty much made a name for himself. Jacob Fatu is that kind of guy that when I see this face coming, I'm turning around because I'm starting to run. When I see this face coming, I'm running. Jacob Fatu's he's not pretending to be a tough guy. Jacob Fatu's not pretending to be a badass. Jacob Fatu is a legit badass. He was arrested for robbery way back in the day. Let me tell you something. When you get arrested for robbery, they're most likely not catching you on your first time. If you get arrested for robbery, the question is, what else have you done that they haven't caught you for yet? Y'all sitting around thinking that Jacob Fatu's out here pretending to be a wrestler? No, Jacob Fatu's the real deal. He's the real deal. And I think that once you see him in the WWE, once you see him in the ring, once you see him in person, you see that, yo, this is a guy that you don't want to freak with. But what makes him special is that WWE doesn't have a lot of guys like him. Who else is like Jacob Fatu in the WWE? You got Gunther. Gunther's a beat-em-up guy, right? He just beat him up and he's a brawler, but he's not crazy like Jacob Fatu. Like, if you put a guy like Jacob Fatu and Gunther in the room at the same time, Gunther's thinking about, you know what, maybe let me not try to piss this guy off so I can get out of here in one piece. But somebody like Jacob Fatu in that same exact situation is like, you know what? I want to eat his head off. You know why? Because I can. Because he won't stop me and he's going to let me. Jacob Fatu, he's not a game. But here's my question to you, and drop it in the chat. Did you expect Jacob Fatu to get this much love from the fans quickly? Did you expect Jacob Fatu to get that much love from you this quickly? Or was it a surprise to you? Let me know in the chat. So we already know that Jacob Fatu is a fan favorite. But here's the next question. Can he even be controlled? If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It means a lot that I'm waking up every single morning and finding more and more and more subscribers. So that means you like what I'm doing, right? I'm not asking friends and family to subscribe, right? If they find my channel and they come and they subscribe on their own, then they subscribe on their own. God bless them. So all my followers are organic, and I appreciate it. I'm humbled because what I'm doing, there's no face to it. I may never get to see your face in person, but as we grow, I plan to see your face in person. But until then, I may never see your face in person. I may never know who you are. I may never know where you live. But you know what? You're a part of the family, so thanks for joining me. Jacob Fatu is more than the Bloodline enforcer. He's more than that. Jacob Fatu was well, let's not look at Jacob Fatu yet. Let's look at the Bloodline. The Bloodline itself was built on chaos. The Roman Reigns had to become the tribal chief because you had people like Baron Corbin burying him and covering him in dog food. He had to do what he had to do to take care of himself. Roman Reigns, when he was running the Bloodline, he kept things strategic, and Paul Heyman kept things calculated. And even Solo, as dangerous as Solo Sikoa is, he was quiet. He was a disciplined presence, and Roman Reigns had him in check. But Jacob Fatu, whole different animal. Jacob Fatu, he don't fight. He attacks. Jacob Fatu, he doesn't win. He destroys. Look at that face. And most importantly, he does not seem like the kind of guy who follows orders that he doesn't agree with. If Jacob Fatu wants to go right and everybody else says that, you know what, we should go left, if Jacob Fatu doesn't want to do it, he's not doing it. And I think that's one of the things that makes Jacob Fatu so enamored, because we know that. He doesn't have to say it. It's just things that we know. And that's why Solo Sikoa might already be in trouble. Not because of a rivalry, no, not at all, but because Jacob Fatu doesn't seem like a man who wants to play second to anyone. He doesn't. You see, I think that Jacob Fatu respected Solo Sikoa as the tribal chief. But once he lost to Ulafala, to Roman Reigns at that premiere episode of Raw on Netflix, I think that's when the respect started going away. Not even the respect, the love. Because what is it that Jacob Fatu would say? He would say, I love you, Solo. But you know what? He doesn't love him anymore, because why you want to love a man that can't even keep the family together. You're supposed to be at the head of the table, and you gave it to somebody else. I came to the WWE to join you. And what you did was you lost the Ulafala to Roman Reigns, the guy that we were fighting against. I think that's when the respect started being lost for Solo Sikoa by Jacob Fatu. But here's my question. Let me know in the chat, because we're all about engagement these days. Is Jacob Fatu going to outgrow the Bloodline? Has he outgrown the Bloodline? Can Jacob Fatu be a star on his own? Let me ask you another one. What about Solo Sikoa? Let's say the Bloodline does break up. Let's say that Solo Sikoa goes his own way, and Roman Reigns goes his own way, and Jacob Fatu goes his own way. What will happen? What do you think will happen? Let me know that in the chat. But if you think that Jacob Fatu is a problem right now, just wait, because the WWE fans already see him being much more dangerous. If you don't want to see my ugly, mugly face, what I'm requesting to you is just listen to this wherever you find a podcast. Apple Music, Google Music, or not Apple Music, sorry, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Spotify, wherever you can think of finding a podcast, including here on YouTube, you can get the audio-only version if you don't want to see my ugly, mugly face. Thanks so much for joining me. And all the episodes come out 6 days later. So if you're listening to this, you missed out 6 days prior. You could join me live at noon, Tuesdays and Fridays here on YouTube. The WWE crowd, though, they're fueling the rise of Jacob Fatu. And WWE likely wanted Fatu to be a dominant heel, but the fans always have other plans. And if history has taught us anything, it's that when the fans get behind somebody like this, WWE has to pay attention. Think about the unplanned babyface effect. Let's talk about guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't supposed to be a heel. That wasn't what was in the cards for him. What was supposed to happen for Stone Cold Steve Austin was that he wasn't even supposed to win the King of the Ring, but came in with the Austin 3:16 line that says, I just whooped you behind. You're talking about your Bibles, you're talking about your Psalms, you're talking about your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 said what? That is when Stone Cold Steve Austin blew up, because he connected with the fans somehow. Let me check this out live to make sure this is function. Yep, so we got function here on YouTube. Okay, that's what I was looking at. All right. Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch wasn't supposed to be a babyface, but she turned into a babyface. Roman Reigns doing a tribal chief run, he wasn't supposed to be the babyface, but you know what? There was something about him that was just cool. Roman Reigns wanted everybody to acknowledge him with the one finger in the air, and what did everybody did? Everybody started standing there not doing nothing. They started turning their backs on Roman. And then eventually what happened? Everybody started standing up with the finger in the air, because it became the cool thing to do, to acknowledge the tribal chief, the only true tribal chief, Roman Reigns. The fans didn't just react to Stone Cold Steve Austin, Becky Lynch, or even Roman Reigns. What happened was those people got elevated. And Jacob Fatu, he's in the same exact category, if you ask me. He's going to be in that same exact category. Jacob Fatu, though, he's getting love because of how different he is. He's different. Who in the WWE looks like Jacob Fatu? Jacob Fatu don't got abs, okay? He doesn't look like a guy that can run a mile, but he looked like a guy that can definitely kick you behind. If that's what Jacob Fatu is going to do, if that's what Jacob Fatu wants to do. If Jacob Fatu did that, who's going to stop him? If Jacob Fatu and you were walking down the alley right now and you didn't have a weapon, how would you fend yourself off from Jacob Fatu? That's why I think that Jacob Fatu is special. He's a throwback to an era to where violence in wrestling wasn't just for shock value, it was a badge of honor. Jacob Fatu would have flourished in ECW. He would have been the man in ECW. But he's born a little bit too late. So now he has to go on his rampage in the WWE, in this PG, Paul Levesque, the Netflix era, whatever they want to call it. Yo, Jacob Fatu, I got a strong prediction for Jacob Fatu, and stick around because I definitely want to give that to you. Let's look at Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga plays a small part in this role. He's getting love too. And I think the only reason why he's getting love, for two reasons. Number one, he's guilty by association. And number two, he has something that the fans latch on to. The fans love cheering with Jacob Fatu saying, "I love you, Solo." And then Tama Tonga has a thing where he like, whatever the hell he does, right? But the fans love doing that. The reason why I think that they're overshadowing Solo Sikoa, because what does Solo Sikoa have? I'll wait. He don't really have nothing. He comes out there with a little thumb thing, and he comes out there, and I think that when I see Solo Sikoa, and I don't know Solo Sikoa personally, I did happen to get the privilege of wrestling his dad way back in the day. But the thing with Solo Sikoa is that, and I'm talking about the character, not the man. I don't know the man. But the thing about Solo Sikoa is I think that he's pretending to be a badass. I think he's pretending to be a tough guy. But then you got somebody like Jacob Fatu, it's like, yo, bro, there's no pretending about him. They go, that's the real McCoy right there. You see Solo Fatu just seems like a nice guy. Even when he tries to do his maniacal smile, like his devious, mischievous smile, it's like, bro, underneath all of that, I really see a nice guy. Now, look, I'm not saying that Jacob Fatu is a nice guy in person. But what I'm talking about is when you look at the characters and you look into the eyes, because they say the eyes are the window to the soul. So when you're looking into their eyes, you see one person in Solo Fatu, in Solo Sikoa, you go, nah, that's not him. And then you see one person in Jacob Fatu, you go, oh yeah, that's him. 100%. If you saw him coming the other way, you're definitely turning. So back to Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga's getting that love from the fans as well too. God, I'm choking. Excuse me, I'm back. Thank you for joining me. With Tama Tonga's brother, Tonga Loa, being out with injury, Jacob Fatu is pretty much big brothering him right now, if you ask me. So what happens if WWE sees that and decides to roll with it? Could we see Fatu and Tama Tonga turn face while Solo Sikoa struggles to keep them in line? Because does anyone really jump for Solo's character? I'll wait. After everything that's happened on SmackDown, do you think that everything's all good in the hood with Solo Sikoa? I'll wait. I think the answer is not really to any of those. You see, the thing that I'm afraid of is that when Solo Sikoa, when he or if the brothers, Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu decide to separate, what happens to Solo Sikoa? You see him as a main event star. You see him as a mid-carder. See him as the curtain jerker, the person doing the first match. You see him going back to NXT. Where do you see him? He's going to have to revamp that character or figure out a way to make the fans emotionally invest with him. Because right now, I don't think he's got it going on. Excuse me. Whether Jacob Fatu turns face or not, one thing is clear. Jacob Fatu is not just going to be another faction member. He's already bigger than that. So what's next for him? I'll tell you what's next for me. Join me Tuesday live at noon here on YouTube, and we're going to be discussing and dissecting pro wrestling. What will we talk about? If I told you now, you might not show up on Tuesday, because you might have to go get your nails done and check it out later. I want you to watch this live. I want you to watch this live next Tuesday at noon right here on YouTube, and I want you to interact. I want you to join the family. I want you to chit-chat because we are going to have a good time. So what's next for Jacob Fatu? So far, Jacob Fatu's been making a name for himself by running through the competition. But let's talk about the bigger picture when it comes to Jacob Fatu. What happens next? Could he break away from the bloodline? Now, look, the reason why I say could is because why do we always have to break everybody up? Why can't they just say, you know what? We just don't mess with each other no more. I'm going to go left. You're going to go right. We'll catch each other, down the road. But let's say they do break up the bloodline. Right now, he's just too big, Jacob Fatu, to be another guy in the group. If WWE sees that, they might start positioning him as a solo monster, no pun intended. They might position Jacob Fatu as a monster by himself. They may make him run the bloodline by himself. I don't know. Jacob Fatu, like I said, he does not respect Solo Sikoa. He lost respect for him on January 6, 2025, the premiere episode of Raw on Netflix, when Solo Sikoa lost the tribal chief status to Roman Reigns. So what's next for Jacob Fatu? I think he's going to pack his bags and go his own way. Who should WWE put in the path of Jacob Fatu? Oh, man. This is the best part right here. That's the best part. We're going to talk about exactly who WWE is going to put in the path of Jacob Fatu. And it's going to make some money and make some cheers. Thank you so much for cheering. He needs to be against somebody that's going to push his limits. He needs to be against somebody that if he's going to be a babyface, that they need to be able to put him in some kind of danger. Okay? He needs to be, if they still decide to make him a heel, it has to be somebody that he has to be able to come for their head. That's what it has to be. So I see them putting him up against people like Sheamus. Sheamus is definitely one. I could see them beating each other up and having some awesome matches. Now, this name here, a couple months ago, I wouldn't have really agreed with it. But as of late, the killing streak that this person's been on, you're going to have to agree with me. Kevin Owens. You see, Kevin Owens is the kind of guy that I wouldn't trust Kevin Owens. I wouldn't even trust Kevin Owens to hold his own wallet, because Kevin Owens is a backstabber. He backstabs his own best friends, and he always puts his best interests first. At the end of the day, it's always what makes Kevin Owens happy and what's going to get Kevin Owens ahead. He'll play on your side, but when he's not playing your side anymore, he's dangerous. God, I'm getting sick. We got Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker's a savage in his own right. So you're telling me that if you saw Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu getting in a ring right now to have a one-on-one match, you wouldn't be sitting on the edge of your seat paying attention? I know I would. Or how about this? I mentioned this name before. Gunther, the right now current WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The Ring General. I can see that as well, too. That's going to be a match that people are going to be really interested in. But each of these matches prove one thing. Jacob Fatu isn't just a problem for the WWE. He isn't a problem for the Bloodline. He's a problem for anybody that steps in his way. Whether you're man, woman, or child. Whether you think that he's on your side, he'll ride with you until he feel like he don't want to ride with you no more. So here's my question. Drop it in the chat. Who do you want to see Jacob Fatu face next? Drop your dream match for Jacob Fatu in the future in the chat. And speaking of some big matches, let's take a look at some predictions for Jacob Fatu. Remember, I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to put this into the atmosphere, and you're going to be like, yo, that brother said it first. Tristan Law, semi-retired pro wrestler, and your host of the Tristan Law Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Tuesdays and Fridays here at noon, live on YouTube. Jacob Fatu is the Intercontinental Champion or U.S. Champion within the next year. Within the next year, 12 months from now, this time we're going to be sitting around talking about Jacob Fatu is the Intercontinental Champion, the U.S. Champion. That's prediction 1. Prediction 2. If Tonga Loa is still out within the next 6 months, Tama Tonga and him are going to be tag team champions. You know why? Because people like them. People are going to want to see it. They're going to put them in a good story, and they're going to win the tag team champions. When you put them against the Viking Raiders or the War Raiders, as what they go back to now, their full name, I've got a bigger prediction for you. The Bloodline doesn't go away. The Bloodline just evolves again, because the Bloodline is used as a staple to get people over, to get people more popular with the fans. So I say Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu, Zilla Fatu. They could be the third incarnation of the Bloodline. Let me explain some of those names, because I threw out a name that the typical WWE person wouldn't know. We know who Tama Tonga is. We know who Tonga Loa is as well, too. Tonga Loa is Tama Tonga's brother. They're both the sons of Haku, one of the baddest men in wrestling back in the day. Right? Tonga Loa's hurt. Jacob Fatu, the guy we've been talking about the whole time. But Zilla Fatu, who's that? Zilla Fatu is Umaga's son. And Umaga's son has been making a name for himself. He's been training with Booker T down there in Texas. He's been making his way on the indies. And I think that he's going to be walking into the front door of the Bloodline someday soon. There's also another name, Lance Anoa'i. Who is Lance Anoa'i? He's a part of the Anoa'i family, and he is in NXT right now. He's at the Performance Center, and he's working his way up. That could be somebody that could be in the future Bloodline, and you don't even know it. The choices that they could do if they decide to keep the Bloodline going. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we got God, I'm choking to death. We got Dom Delivers checking in. Thank you so much for checking in. Make sure you check out her podcast, Dom Delivers. She's out there giving out spiritual facts and helping people out. And I think you should check out her podcast on YouTube. But she says Leo Rush maybe. I think Leo Rush will get folded up like an envelope. And Leo Rush right now, I think Leo Rush is either in TNA or he's in AEW. But if Leo Rush was standing in front of Jacob Fatu, yeah, he needs to use some sick days. He needs to figure out some kind of way to get himself out of the situation that he's in at that time. Because if you ask me, he's in danger. If you like what I've been talking about so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Subscriptions mean a lot. It means I'm doing a good job. And based on the way that my followers just have been jumping up, and it's all organic, it means that somebody out there thinks I'm doing such a great job. I was telling my brother this morning, I was like, it's so crazy how everybody just comes onto this and just sees it and just likes it. I don't ever say, hey, to you in person, hey, give me your phone, let me subscribe to you. What I do is I present to you my material. I present it to you in the way that I would tell it to you if I was telling you in person, as a friend, as your pal, as your buddy. And sometimes say, I like this guy, I might hit subscribe. And to me, that's humbling. It means a lot. And I appreciate it. Okay, so one day, maybe we could all get together and be like, yo, you one of the day ones from the Tristan Law Show. But just make sure you copy your Tristan Law Show shirt. Click the link in the bio. Thanks so much, Dom Delivers, for hanging out. So right now, Jacob Fatu is becoming too popular, too dangerous, and too unpredictable for WWE to ignore. I think Jacob Fatu is not even being ignored by Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa told him last week on SmackDown, I love you, Jacob Fatu. And why did he tell him that? To put some water on the fire? To try to keep him in check? And if that's how you're going to try to keep him in check by manipulating him, you got some problems. Maybe that's something that Jacob Fatu was doing the whole time, manipulating Solo Sikoa until it was just his time that he can break out because he knew he was a bigger star than Solo Sikoa. The question is, though, the question isn't if Jacob Fatu takes over. The question is when. Drop this in the comment. Let me know. All right, this is going to be the final question I'm going to ask you. Has Jacob Fatu already outgrown the Bloodline, or does he still need more time? Well, if you ask me, I think that Jacob Fatu is becoming such a huge problem. And, he's one you're definitely going to have to keep your eye on. My name is Tristan Law, and this is the Tristan Law Show. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to see you Tuesday, live at noon, right here on YouTube. If you like what I did, go ahead and hit the like, share, and subscribe. I'm choking. I'm trying not to cough. Thank you so much for watching the Tristan Law Show. Go watch some wrestling. The Rock is supposed to be on SmackDown tonight. So watch that. We might talk about that sometime in the near future. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tristan Law. See you next time.
Nothing in sight, forever in flight. Follow those lines, we'll make it this time. Blurry street lights, work as a guide to memory.